Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of I Want Motivation Radio. Today is June 24th, 2013, and I am co-hosting the show with my good friend, Wendy Duncan. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning, Lee, and good morning to everyone out there. Hope everyone is well.
Everyone can reach Wendy at wendyduncan.com. And if you have anything to say, any comments, you can reach me at lee@iwantmotivation.com. Very excited today. We have a very special guest this week. Her name is Becky Curran. Becky has an amazing life so far and is heading for bigger things. We can't wait for you to hear her story. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning.
Good morning,
How are
Becky.
you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. So I have a very important question before we get started with the interview. Becky lives in Boston. Are the Bruins going to win tonight?
Yes. There's no other choice.
That's right. Take it to Game 7. So I'm a big hockey fan.
Are you okay with that if they do win?
Oh, I want Boston to win. I want them to beat
Perfect.
Chicago. So, yeah.
Then we can continue the show.
That's right.
Ooh, she's got you pegged, Lee.
I know. Becky, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You have a different condition, and what challenges have you faced with this condition growing up? And can you tell our listeners what exactly that condition is? And explain it to them, because I did not know when I first met you. So.
All right, here we go. So I was born about 29 years ago in Boston, Massachusetts. When I was first born, my parents did not know what was different, but I looked a little different. And there was actually a nurse who had delivered a little person before. I'll go into more detail, but I am a little person. She had delivered a little person before, and she was able to tell them that, in fact, I was a little person. And they were really worried because they wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay. One of the biggest struggles, especially for newborns, little people who are newborns, is that most parents have never seen a little person before because there are only 30,000 little people in the United States. That's like having a big college or university. I use the example of in Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts and Amherst, where there are 30,000 people, and that's like the whole little people population. If you put them in one place, you would never see another little person around. So you think of spreading little people out all over the country, and there's even more in the world, but the ratios are pretty similar. Most people don't know what to expect when they see a little person, and my parents took a long time doing a lot of research, and they found out that I had a form of dwarfism called achondroplastic, and fortunately we were able to find out, or they were able to find out, that it is the healthiest and most common type of dwarfism. There are 200 different types of dwarfism. I happen to be on the taller side of most little people. If you're a little person, you're either 4'10" or under, but there are also other classifications because there are some people who are just short and may not necessarily be a little person. Okay. When I was 6 months old, we were able to find a specialist after my parents did a lot of research, and there was a specialist in Baltimore who I went to, Dr. Stephen Kopitz, and he was able to tell my parents that I was going to be okay and that they didn't have anything to worry about because I could still lead a normal life. There were going to be medical complications, but that comes with having a little person child, and they just had to be prepared and open to addressing the situation if it were to happen. So when I was first born, I was actually born with bowed legs. So when I was 3, when I was old enough to have a surgery that would be able to change the way that my legs would grow, they took 2 bones out of my legs. And then when I was 13, they did another surgery where they took bone out of my pelvis and put it back in both of my legs in order to straighten out my legs so I could continue growing and have normal walking and all of that. Then when I was 15, I had 7 pieces of my vertebrae taken out, and that was definitely the most complicated surgery. but I was fortunate for it to go really well, and I haven't had any pain ever since. There were a few other surgeries I had growing up which were related to ears and tonsils and adenoids, but some of those are related to anyone. They may just have tonsils and adenoids taken out. I do have narrow ear canals, so that had to do with having tubes in and out a little bit more than your average person may have. The whole reason I bring this up is a lot of people just think that we're small and that we can't live life at a full capacity. And especially with all of the medical situations that I've gone through, I don't ever want someone to feel bad for me or for someone to treat me differently because of that. I want them to look at me as a person and a human being, and I want people to be able to learn from me and learn from the experience that I go through, and hope that new parents of little people, since 80% of little people are born to average height parents, I just hope to educate more parents about the fact that it could happen to them, but they don't have to think it's the end of the world, because we can still lead normal lives. I grew up going to school just like everyone else. I didn't go to any special school because I was different. I participated in sports among my average height peers, and I didn't even get involved in the Little People organization, just like there's organizations for cultures and different walks of life. There's the Little People organization that has a strong membership of little people from all around the world, and I didn't decide to get involved until college because I was used to being a part of a group of friends, and I didn't mind being the only different one. And I think if society was more open to our differences, we wouldn't even need the organization because we would all be able to get along and understand each other. But it's nice to have people to relate to, so I don't have regrets about getting involved. I just think that society could treat us as equal members of society.
Right.
Well, if you listen to any of the episodes that Lee and I have done, this has been a prevalent theme, is, accept people for who they are. And if you will stand out of judgment of that, life for around the world could be so much better. So
exactly.
And it's amazing to me too, Becky. I mean, how fortunate are you to have lived in a time when those kinds of surgeries, that they could do that. I mean,
exactly.
If you had been born 100 years ago or more, you might not have had, that.
And even I noticed,
not even that long ago. Yeah.
I even noticed it across the country because I went to the best of the best around the Johns Hopkins area where they're world-renowned doctors, but there are so many doctors around the country that still try to tell people, let's just wait until it gets bad and then we'll take care of it, because we don't want to take that risk, because they are really complicated surgeries. And I was fortunate for my doctors to tell me that let's take care of it while you're young, while your healing and bounce-back rate is a lot faster than when you're older and you have to deal with the added consequences of being older.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To be proactive about it and do it while you're younger. And, we all know as we get older, our bodies don't bounce back as quick as they used to. So exactly. And to maintain that, I've always had to worry about my weight. I have the doctor who I went to in Baltimore would be the one who knew about the growth chart and everything for little people, but then I would still go to my general practitioner every year for my yearly checkups, and he didn't really know about the circumstances. He would just base it on my age. So one time my doctor in Baltimore told me I really need to lose weight and really need to focus on eating healthy because I can't be eating as much as people my age. And the doctor in the Northeast who I had gone to said, you're not eating enough, because he was judging my growth chart off of the average height people. So he was thinking that I needed to eat as much as people my age, or I needed to be the same weight as people my age. Right.
I would love for my doctor to tell me I had to eat more. That'd be So, Becky, this next question is twofold. And, being a woman, I know that growing up is never easy, I think, for young ladies. Again, kind of our culture. But how did your condition really affect you as a young woman? And we'd also like to know about your persistence with interviewing.
We'll start with growing up as a young woman. I didn't really see having a tough time until, because I started going to school at a young age with friends who I grew up with, and we did have a strong group of girls that we all hung out with. But when I got to high school, that's when it got difficult, when people started dating, when people started leaving me out because they didn't think that I was eligible for dating. There were a lot of times where people were afraid what other people would think by having me around. And sometimes I think it happens to both male and female little people, but sometimes a lot of girls may have just wanted to have their guy little person friend around just because they think they're cute and won't necessarily be embarrassed by it, but maybe it's not in the most genuine way that they're caring for them. They're kind of having them there as a display or like a way for them to pick up guys. So I think both guys and girls had complications. A lot of little people guys have the complication with wanting to be able to protect a girl, and a girl wants to be able to be protected. So when it comes to them dating average height girls, it doesn't always work in their favor because the girl doesn't feel like they could fully be there to protect them. And then I run into guys who are average height having fetishes, and I don't know when someone's being genuine and really cares for me or if they're just acting like it because they just want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons, I think, for both male and female, and that's why I have relied, especially when it comes to dating, on the little people community, because I know that they like me for me and care for me because I'm me, because they know what I go through in everyday life and they respect me for that.
Well, I'm sure, too, that a little bit of your, well, probably a lot of your intuition comes into play, like, you know, is this person really authentic and acting in integrity, and to trust that. And I think that's true of anyone, you know.
I think of it as maybe if there are some people who are around, I almost get a sense of relief when there are people I'm around who maybe have a sibling or a family member of some sort with some type of physical difference or even mental difference or any type of difference that allows them to embrace and accept it. You can really see it in their personality, and when I start talking to the person, you can already tell by the way they're talking to you, they're very genuine, and then once you hear more of their story, because I love when people can become vulnerable with me and tell me their story, because I want people to be able to open up. And I think the world would be a better place if more people could open up about what they're going through. So when people open up to me, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And it just puts you at ease because they understand and they're not just talking to you because they're curious. And people are allowed to talk to me because they're curious, but curious for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And then going into the interview question, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but when I first moved out to California from Boston after I'd gone to school at Providence College, I was supposed to have a job to work for a talent manager, and she happened to be a little person, so even when I first got the job, it wasn't like there was anything standing between us. It was just meant to be in a good situation. But I found out when I first got out to California that just wasn't going to work out. Some things happened, and it didn't end up working out, but I had already moved out to California, so I needed to find out how I could stay there because I had always wanted to go there, and I had a place to stay, and I just had to find a way to make it work, and I was determined to make it work. I started out by reaching out to a lot of college alumni. I found out that people got sick of the cold weather in the Northeast and moved. A lot of the older alumni moved and made California their home. I reached out to a lot of these people. Some were in the entertainment industry and some were not, and I wanted to just pick their brains and figure out how they got started. Then in the process, I found out from people what were good job sites and how to reach out to the appropriate companies for potential interviews. I would even drive around LA and find buildings and look up companies. One of the companies I found out was not a company I would want to work for. It was porn, but luckily I found that out fast. But it was
before you went for the interview. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just when I looked up on the website, I didn't even apply. But it's just funny because you're passing all these buildings, and there's even a big difference between the Northeast and California, where a building could look really shady and not put together on the outside, but it could be really nice inside. So you never know what's going on behind any of these buildings. So I applied a lot through just passing some buildings and then just word of mouth hearing from people, and I really just wanted to find out the best way to get my foot in the door in the industry since I was out there. And if I was going to be a part of any other industry, there's no reason I should be out there because my family was here. And there were some other reasons because there were little people out there and I got to know a lot of them and they became close friends. But that was primarily the reason I was out there, because I was doing something that I couldn't do back at home. So I found out that working at a talent agency is like working at it's like being a part of grad school for the entertainment industry. You learn the ins and outs, you learn all the names in the industry, the big players, because if you don't know the big players, you're in a lot of trouble when someone calls and it's someone really important and you may hang up on them without even realizing who it was. So there are a lot of reasons you need to know all the key industry players. I made sure that I interviewed at all the talent agencies. I signed up for a lot of temporary placement agencies because I figured that could be a good way to get my foot in the door, because I would just meet with a temporary placement agency and they would pitch me to these companies. And one of the struggles was that a lot of people, and I didn't even put on my resume that I was different, a lot of people didn't know that I was different until I walked in the door, and people were caught off guard. But I wasn't going to let it stop me. Sometimes I had up to 4 interviews a day, and I just kept going because I'm not proving anything to me or anyone else by showing that I'm giving up and letting these people win. There were so many people when I would walk in the door, they would just react in a weird way, and it would mostly be related to body image or body language, because obviously they would get in a lot of trouble if they were to say something verbally. But I just...
And how many interviews did you go through? This is what I find amazing.
I had 100 interviews when it was all said and done.
Oh, wow.
And I kept a journal the entire time, so I have every single one written down as well.
That's amazing. Most people would have given up after 50, so I just think that's amazing that you
It just wasn't worth giving up, and even when I finally found a job, I was a temporary employee for 7 months before I was hired on full time. So even once I got my foot in the door, I had to keep proving myself, and then it got to the point where it was time to hire me or it wasn't going to look pretty. I think people automatically assume, whether it's in the workplace or somewhere else, little people are the last group of people that are really accepted as equal members of society, and they think because we're little we can't accomplish big things, and they automatically assume that they can treat us differently. My biggest pet peeve is when people treat me like I'm 5, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm an experienced human being who's ready to take on the world.
That's right. Becky, how long of a time was it before when you got out to LA and you actually got that 100th interview, that job?
So it actually wasn't even after the 100th interview. It was one of the recruiting agencies had pitched me to start and temp there. I had a quick assignment for a month that was in December. So I moved out on August 12th, 2006, and I interviewed nonstop up until December when I got a temporary assignment. And I was still interviewing because I knew that temporary assignment wasn't going to last more than a month. So I'd interview at nighttime and even in the morning just for that full-time job in the new year. So I'd say it took about August, September, October, November. So about 4 months.
Wow.
And then after that first temp assignment had ended, I had to start all over again. I was afraid to go home to Boston, but my family really wanted me to go home for Christmas, and I was just so nervous about going home because I wanted to make sure that I was out there proving myself, and I was afraid of people asking questions. What are you doing? What are you doing out there?
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to come home because I was afraid that I wasn't going to be given a chance again. And my parents promised me, you can go back, don't worry, you're going to be okay. You just have to promise us that you're going to keep plugging away. So it was January 19th when I started at the agency, and I was there for 5 years.
Well, you totally embody the phrase "never give up." So Wendy and I preach that all the time, and that's great that you stuck with it and followed what you wanted to do and reached your goal, which was to get a job. So congratulations, great.
Thank you.
So you were a talent agent assistant. Then you went to CBS and worked there. So you've met a lot of influential people, and if people go to BeckyMotivates.com, which is Becky's website, you'll see pictures of her and quite a few celebrities there that she's met over the years. Stan Lee.
It's interesting. I would meet a lot of people.
Founder of Marvel is my favorite. So
yes. I would meet a lot of people outside of those direct work environments. I worked on a film festival in Catalina Island, and that's where I met Stan Lee. And I was also involved in this organization called Art of Elysium, where they bring art to children in hospitals as a distraction for whatever they're going through. And I learned a lot of skills at the talent agency on how to approach someone. And I use the same approach as I would as I preach to people: treat others the way you want to be treated. A lot of people think, oh, they're famous, they need to be treated with special treatment, or I'm going to freak out in front of them because they're famous. But they just want to be treated just like everyone else, and that's the best way. And I got people to open up to me because of that, because I just went and approached them with ease, and we found a way to connect on a different level.
Right. That's great. Okay, you decided to follow your passion now, which is motivating others. When did you decide you wanted to start motivating others by following your life's passion? At what point in your career?
When I was in college, I was one of the founders of Toastmasters at our college, and I loved the idea of having people share their story. There are so many people who are afraid to share their story and are afraid to speak because public speaking is the number one fear above death.
Yeah.
It was just so great watching other people just try to share their story and overcome their fear of even speaking in front of others. And I was able to get my certification where I did 10 speeches, and I stayed involved in Toastmasters even out in California, on and off, because it was hard to accommodate with my schedule. And I was also part of an improv class when I first moved out there, part of the interview process. I just needed something to keep me grounded and keep me excited about something that was always my mission. My whole idea of speaking has been that I needed to have a platform. I needed to have something more that I did before I go out and talk to people, because I wanted people to understand that I can do anything. So I wanted to have obstacles to overcome before I went and spoke to people about what I go through in everyday life.
Well, we all have our story for sure, and for you to use that as a platform is amazing.
So I got involved in the disability community once I was in the industry long enough where people were starting to respect what I was passionate about. I really got involved in advocating for disabled actors and actresses, writers, performers, musicians. I wanted to help shine the light on them and help people see that they're just as capable and they can perform, and they may even blow you away more than your average person.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that just kind of tunneled to being able to do it, and I constantly am sharing stories and helping people because that's important to me.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Becky, how do you stay motivated yourself? What strategies do you use to get up every day out of bed and get after it?
I realize that I can't think too much when I'm overtired because I end up overanalyzing things. One of my approaches has to do with how I deal with everyday life when I'm walking around in public and people are pointing and staring. I don't let it get to me, because if I were to let it get to me every time someone was pointing and staring, I just don't think I would be stable.
Yeah.
So I take that approach,
right?
I take that approach in everyday life, even when I wake up. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do it for me, and I hope that other people can learn from it. Even with the example of only 30,000 little people being in the United States, I can't control what every other person does, but by being the best version of myself and showing people that I can accomplish anything and I won't let it stop me, I feel that I'm setting an example, and I hope that those people who meet me can then approach another little person in the future with the same amount of respect and dignity. And if they prove that wrong, or they know that we're not all the same, if there is some negative connotation involved, I think everyone deserves to be given a first chance, and then they can go from there. Not saying that everyone gets along. Even when I was living in California, I was in and out of friends who also happen to be little people. It doesn't mean that just because we're little, we're all the same. And I think people need to understand that we're just human beings and we're all going to be different. But by me being the best version of myself, I hope I can help others become the best version of themselves.
Yeah. You make me think of a quote that I learned from Bob Proctor, and that is that you have a body, but you're not your body. So, you know, we have this vessel that we were born in, but we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And, you know, I honestly think that we're all handed our quote-unquote cross to bear. And because of that cross, we are able to transcend and connect with people that we normally would never connect with. So, you know, it's amazing to, you know, move into the fact that you were given this body, this condition, this chance, and that you're doing something so fantastic with it, Becky. It really moves me. I know that. So I'm sure you've had that effect on many, many people. So.
Thank you. And my favorite quote is...
Oh, go ahead, Becky.
My favorite quote is, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. That's Mother Teresa's. Because it's true.
Lovely.
People don't know what they're missing out on when they judge someone right off the bat.
And it really doesn't feel good anyway. I'm really not sure how we all got into that, you know, conditioning or that programming. But, yeah, there's something to be learned.
I thought Wendy was going to bring up one of her other favorite quotes, Wendy.
Which
it's
one?
None of your business. It's none of your business what other people think about you.
So true.
That's one of Wendy's favorite.
So true.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, gosh.
Becky, what advice would you give to other people with disabilities and the way others perceive disabilities?
Okay. Well, one of the biggest things with, as you said, I'm going to answer the second part first.
Okay.
What people perceive as disabilities, even when I'm pitching my speaking, and I know we're going to talk about that later, but a lot of people automatically pigeonhole me into organizations that are related to disability. I know I can help those organizations out, but I feel like the whole world can benefit because there are so many people who don't understand how to approach someone with a physical difference. And the rule of thumb is treat them just like you would want to be treated. Ask questions before you assume what accommodations they need, and it'll be a lot easier.
Right.
So with people with physical differences, I would just say that you need to surround yourself with people who believe in you, even if it's fewer people than you may want to be around. It's all about quality, not quantity, because if you have a million friends and they just treat you okay, they're not the right people to be around, because you need to be respected and supportive, because it's still a long road before there's equality in society, and that's why I'm a part of it, because I want to be a part of it, but I know I can't do it all in my lifetime, and I hope to keep passing it on to the next generation. People need people who can vouch for them and stand up for them, and then people who are their friends and who are there for them will be able to educate other people. I love when my friends tell me about a time when someone uses the M word, as we haven't brought it up yet, but the word midget is the most offensive word someone can use when addressing a little person. I always tell people, just call me Becky, call me by my name. Why do I have to be labeled? I'm just a person.
Right.
But when I hear my friends, or even there is this guy I used to work with, he said that he had a friend who was writing a script, and he used the M word, and he said, if you're even going to try to put a little person in this movie, you need to remove that word. And maybe you should just put a different type of person because you don't understand the situation, because you're already not treating them with respect before they're even cast in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
he convinced them to take another approach, because if you don't know how to address the situation, it's going to be a battle between the actor and the producer, because you need to be able to embrace it and understand it and not just make assumptions and think that that word's okay to use.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I also tell people that if you've made a mistake in the past and you think that you addressed a little person or someone with a physical difference in any negative way, you can't dwell on it, because that's just going to eat up inside of you. You need to take a different approach from this point forward and take what you learn from me or from anyone else and address the situation differently in the future. And that's all we can ask, because we can't go back in the past. We just need to improve in the future.
Yeah. Well, people, they say things only based upon the knowledge that they have at that time,
Exactly.
I hope. Yeah, so as you get more educated, then you know how to address that.
Right, or their conditioning over the years, which I'm glad society as a whole is changing a lot of that, and the way people look at other people. So
exactly.
We're getting there. We've got a long way to go, but at least we're moving forward.
And even when I was in the interview process, it was body language, because people knew that they couldn't say something because that would have gotten them in a lot of trouble. So people already know not to say things, but sometimes that can be just as bad.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, we can't control all that, can we? So it's up to us either to attach or just go, oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We can only be the best version of ourselves.
That's right.
That's right.
So, Becky, I've noticed that there are so many people on Twitter who say that they have absolutely no motivation. So what would you say to them to get them going?
I would say that you need to find what makes you happy. Go after what you want. Don't tell people you can't do something that you really want. When I speak at schools, there are a lot of kids who are told by their parents, oh, you shouldn't do that. There was one girl who was told by her dad that she couldn't be a teacher because the teacher market's really crazy. She's in 6th grade. It's going to be another 10 or so years, and the teacher market's going to be completely different, and there's always going to be a need for teachers. So when people put limits even on their own children, that's huge. That's a huge problem, because people need to be able to find what they're passionate about, what keeps them moving, what makes them wake up every day and excited, what just drives them. And a lot of people are afraid because of financial stability and other things, but it's important because money will follow. Your happiness will follow. You need to be doing what you're passionate about, because there's a reason why you're in a funk and upset and not motivated. There's no one out there to feel bad for you, and I hope these people don't want people to feel bad for them. I think social media has a negative and positive effect on people's lives, because when you share so much of your dirty laundry, people don't want to help you. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to work together, even how you guys were able to find me on Twitter. We all are going towards something that we believe in, and helping educate and teach people that it's okay to have your bad days, but you got to find what drives you and what keeps you going, because life's too short to be doing something you hate your whole life. And we don't want to hear all these negative tweets. We want, even if things are really tough for a long period of time, we rather hear what positive things you're doing, because then we'll want to help you more.
Yeah.
Right.
Even when my approach with advocacy, a lot of people ask me why I'm not more involved with the political side of advocacy, and even when there's the improper use of the M word, and there are so many different groups of people who are trying to change the way people approach little people. And my whole approach is being organic, because I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I know I already caused people to be a little curious, and there are people who shake in my presence because they're nervous since they've never seen a little person. But I want to put people at ease. I want to make people understand that I'm just another human being, a member of society that wants to be embraced and accepted. And I think fighting and constantly telling people they're doing things wrong is not the approach to take when you want to be organic and be able to motivate everyone.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, Becky, you are now a full-time motivational speaker.
Yes.
And can you tell us who exactly you've been speaking to? I know it's been some colleges, some educational, what you want to move towards, and how people can contact you to schedule an event or have you come speak.
Well, the first thing is everyone can check out my website, BeckyMotivates.com, BeckyMotivates.com, and there you'll find some videos of my past speaking engagements, and you'll see pictures and quotes and stories about me, and testimonials as well about the experiences that I've had in the past at different schools. I've spoken at several schools from the elementary level to the grad school level. I've spoken at Harvard grad school and medical school and Tufts, and then even just the second grade class. I have a different message, or my message is the same in each of the groups, but I talk about it a little differently just to accommodate to each grade level. And a lot of it's just teaching people about what it's like growing up different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to talk about your differences. Don't surround yourself with people that bring you down. You want to stay around positive people that are going to help bring you up and help you reach your goals. And that's where I really accommodate all audiences, by just teaching people to go after what they want to and don't let things stop them, because there's no reason to not go after what you want to. And, of course, there are times where it's going to be tough. I'm not going to have a speaking engagement every week, and I have to make sure that I keep up a social media presence so I can reach audiences in different ways there. And I am really just trying to educate people on every platform. And I just want to speak and share my story and show people that it's okay to be different. And the best way
definitely an amazing story.
The best way to reach me is going to my website, and then there's a form you can fill out, or you can just email me at BeckyMotivates.com or BeckyMotivates@gmail.com, and I can help you out with any of your requests you have, and I look forward to just taking it all over the place.
Wonderful.
Oh, I know you will.
We both want to thank you for taking your valuable time out today and sharing your story and your tips and strategies. And we need more people like you in the world, but we're really glad to have happened upon you. And so thank you very much.
Thank you for finding me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was
thank
meant
you very
to
much.
be, right?
Yeah, thanks, Twitter. I encourage everyone out there, Becky, go visit her site. She's an amazing woman. She's got great videos of her speaking and a great message throughout her brand new site that she just got up last week. And also you can find her on Twitter. That's how I found Becky. And it's just been so, I've only known you for a little while now, Becky, but I'm so thankful that I've met you. And I know you're going to be bound for great things.
It's an honor to be a part of it.
Thank you, Becky.
So thank you very much for coming on the show. And Wendy, I know you're going to have a fabulous week, and we're all going to have a fabulous week. And everyone out there, stay motivated. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye.